G'day YouTube. Warbles on a lot here. 12:15. Monday night, there was a lightning strike. That fire's about 800 metres from here. It's on top of a hill. Not the hill you can see here from my front gate. There's a gully and there's a 30-metre wide fence line bulldoze which runs between this hill and the next one. Through the smoke you can just vaguely see the lines of the hill that's got the fire on it. Nobody noticed Monday night because we got 7.5 millimetres of rain. I always ask if we can have enough rain to put out any lightning. So yeah, Tuesday, nobody noticed. Tuesday night I did smell a little bit of like burning leaves smell, but I couldn't see any smoke. Apparently other people saw the smoke, contacted the RFS, they came out, they had a look. You can't get to it. Nobody on the ground can get to it. Yesterday while I was in town, discovering that the oil seals for the front forks of the Talaria Sting L1E for the second or third time, the ones that were posted out of Sydney were not the right ones for my forks. So next week maybe perhaps. But when I was coming home, I saw all of this going up into the sky. They had a helicopter out here about this time yesterday, apparently. 2 hours or so before I spotted the thing. But the helicopter had a go at bucketing it, but because you couldn't get any ground crews in there to consolidate what the helicopter was doing. And why really should they fight fire to save dead trees on top of a hill? Probably better to let those trees burn right now so that in 3 months' time nobody is worried about an ember landing in those trees and allowing the ember attack to play leapfrog. So anyway, my son and heir, oh look, there you go, now you can actually see the hill through the smoke. The group officer in the RFS, he told me he was going to come out about 1 o'clock-ish, so 45 minutes, to have a bit of a second look at the thing and see how close it is. As of 10 o'clock, the fire was within 35 metres of, quote, breaking out, i.e. getting to the place where you can drive a fire truck up there and have a chance of attacking it by driving up the fence line. So, yeah, it's all just a little bit exciting. Hitler was elected, Donald Trump was elected, now the world is fucking burning in front of us as we watch. But, you know, always a bit of a trendsetter. Thankfully, I do not live in the excited status of Norte Armed Americano, where people are talking about the 20th of January ushering in an era which may well rival that of Robespierre's French Terror, the one for which they invented the guillotine. So it remains to be seen just how terribly bad Trumpletonia is going to be. There are people who say I called it wrong with my previous video. I don't think so. Trumpletonia forever, Trumpletonia forever, with a barbed wire dildo up his nose. Happily, I'm a vegetarian and a pacifist living at trans-Pacific distances. My absolutely super quick cut on the matter is that America and China are going to get really shitty with each other. But right at the moment, a fella called Elon Musk is sucking up Trump's arsehole because he's been throwing money at him in an attempt to get the American government to somehow lose sight of the fact that a company called SpaceX has already been paid $3 billion with a BBB dollars to land NASA astronauts on the moon in the year of 2024. And SpaceX has spent all that money building a big fucking rocket to launch Starlink satellites. And the Starlink satellites, as a favour to Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, who rings up Mr. Musk, who's been conducting unlawful private US cities and foreign policy from an unelected position with no authority at all whatsoever. But as a favour to Mr. Putin, Mr. Musk has turned off Starlink satellites coverage of Ukraine, except when the Russians want to use it to run an attack. And he's also turned them off over the island of Formosa as a favour to his mate Putin, because Putin wants to do a favour to Xi Jinping, and Xi Jinping says he'd really like the fucking silicon chip factory on the island of Formosa. To which the nationalist Chinese fascists retreated after they lost to the Chinese communists in 1948. It seems to me a lot of people are currently running the experiment of feed them enough rope and they'll tie themselves a knot and wrap it around their own throat. And I think that's what might be going on with the excited status of Norte Armed Americano. There was no cheating. There was no fraud. 350 million Americans voted for Hitlerism, administered by Tronald Dump, to later on be transferred to what's his name? What is his name? The pretend hillbilly? The poor white trailer trash whose ancestors lost their hill block? Golly gosh, gee darn shucks. I'm really fucking glad I don't live in the excited status of Norte Americano. So there's going to be a trade war between America and China, and the Australian government's going to try its very best to suck up to America, but probably in their isolationism, as they cease aiding Ukraine and as they back out of NATO, you might find that the Trumpletonians also back out of AUKUS, and we don't get stuck with the bill for 6 fucking nuclear-powered submarines that are not going to be here for another 10 years when Trumpy's having a trade war with China, while Musk is sucking up China via Putin. Literally, America is no longer well, it is a representative democracy. Germany voted for Hitler. 12 years later, the Germans who were still alive wished the fucking hell they had never voted for Hitler. It's going to be very interesting to see how many Americans are alive in 12 years and how many of them are happy to have voted for Tronald Dump. And what's his name? The faux hillbilly who grew up in a fucking caravan park before his meth head mother and absent alcoholic father sent him to his grandma. And gee, she did a good job, didn't she? Stephen Miller is going to be high up there. Bannon. All the most scurrilous, self-centered, ignorant, hubristic rogues you can think about, let alone point a bloody stick at. Yeah. There they are. They're going to be in charge of the nuclear arse and all of the excited status of Norte Armed Americano. I'm bloody glad I don't live there. I'm really glad I live on the outside edge of a civilization I've never been able to fucking fit into. But I'm also really glad I raised my offspring to be sufficiently functional as to live on the outside edge and still fit in and get paid for fitting in. While in the case of my son, the civilization I can't really fit into, they give him helicopters with buckets and a task force of 6 brigades to lead into the breach to deal with shit like that. And right at the moment, it's kind of like an act of faith that with 36,000 litres of water sitting on the lawn and the fire 800 metres more or less vaguely upwind, look at that and that. I am so sanguine, I have not yet unrolled a hose to wet down the approach side or start to sprinkle in the clearing, because I think that's pretty safe. Unlike the excited status of Norte armed Americano, which I think is about to descend into fucking madness. I really do. Really tough titty for the Ukrainians. Not much fun for everybody else in NATO. I think the nationalist, fascist Chinese rump running the island of Formosa, I think they're in really deep shit. If only Australia could manage to be a forgotten backwater like Kiwi land. I mean, there's nothing like Pine Gap in Kiwi land. If somebody wants to have an argument and lob nuclear warheads or thermonuclear warheads at Uncle Spam, they're not going to nuke New Zealand. They will nuke us to get Pine Gap and all the other American bases. So there you go. There's a bit of a mixed video. Wobbles on a lot to YouTube. I'm going to see what that message is about. Ciao.